After years of silence, Meghan Markle's ex-husband Trevor Engelson has finally revealed the truth. And it's nothing like the story we've been told. In a calm, detailed account, he exposes the real Meghan behind the spotlight. The revelations are personal, strategic, and absolutely devastating to her public image. The bombshell: Meghan's ex-husband breaks his silence. After years of silence and speculation, Trevor Engelson has finally spoken. And what he's said is sending shockwaves through both Hollywood and royal circles. For over a decade, his voice was missing from the Meghan Markle narrative. But now, with Prince Harry's marriage under scrutiny, Trevor's truth has arrived. And it's far more damaging than anyone imagined. According to multiple insiders, Trevor chose to speak off the record to a documentary producer currently investigating the private lives of high-profile figures. He avoided mainstream media outlets entirely, reportedly to protect himself legally. But those who've heard snippets of the recorded interview say it paints a version of Meghan that breaks through the public image she's spent years carefully building. Trevor, who was married to Meghan from 2011 to 2013, doesn't accuse her of illegal behavior. But he does paint her as someone cold when necessary, calculated in relationships, and deeply addicted to status. Those are his words, reportedly delivered calmly and without theatrics. But the impact is anything but soft. Sources close to the production claim Trevor described how quickly Meghan changed once fame became possible. According to him, the woman he married, someone kind, engaged, and emotionally open, slowly shifted into someone more focused on strategy than connection. Her growing ambition wasn't hidden, Trevor reportedly said. It became her driving force. Perhaps most chilling is what happened behind the scenes once news of the interview reached Meghan's camp. Lawyers were contacted immediately. Confidentiality agreements were reviewed. Meghan's PR advisors, including key Hollywood figures, were said to be in a state of quiet panic. One insider claimed they always knew Trevor held the one version of her story they couldn't control. This isn't just a personal tell-all. It's the first time anyone from Meghan's private past has gone public with first-hand insight. And in doing so, Trevor has broken open a carefully managed silence. As one royal observer put it, Trevor Engelson was the only person who knew Meghan before the lights came on. And now he's finally telling people what that looked like. Meghan's team may try to contain the damage, but the genie is out of the bottle, and the narrative is shifting fast. I was a stepping stone. Trevor's heartbreaking confession. Trevor Engelson didn't raise his voice. He didn't rant or point fingers. But those who've seen the footage say his words carried something more cutting: honest heartbreak. In his conversation with the documentary team, Trevor reportedly described what it felt like to watch the woman he loved transform into someone unrecognizable, and then leave him without warning. He summed it up with a line that now echoes across the internet. I was just the audition. The real prize came later. That one sentence speaks volumes. According to those close to him, Trevor watched Meghan's ambition unfold slowly, like a script she'd written in advance. When she first landed Suits, she was overjoyed. But soon after, she began pulling away emotionally, often canceling plans, skipping family events, or reordering priorities around networking opportunities. She began practicing her interview responses in the mirror, even rehearsing PR-friendly answers to questions no one had asked yet. For Trevor, it wasn't acting anymore, it was branding. His friends say he was deeply in love. He wanted to support her career, but he wasn't prepared for the way she began to disengage emotionally, right as her star started rising. Trevor reportedly told the crew, She outgrew me. Not because I changed, because she saw herself above what we had. The revelation stings, but it's consistent with other testimonies emerging from Meghan's past. Former colleagues, old friends, and insiders from her early Hollywood years have long hinted that Meghan was extremely focused on climbing, often restructuring her inner circle based on usefulness, not loyalty. Trevor's account simply confirms what others had only suggested. He wasn't part of the long-term plan. One source close to the production team shared that Trevor never seemed angry, just satisfied. He wasn't trying to destroy her, they said, but you could see it still hurt, like he never really got closure. This emotional honesty is what's making his testimony so powerful. It's not exaggerated, it's not theatrical. It's just a man quietly revealing what it felt like to be part of someone's origin story, and then be erased from it. The public reaction has been swift. Many are now seeing Meghan's rise not as a fairy tale, but as a series of calculated choices, made one relationship at a time. The way she left, a divorce that wasn't just cold, it was clinical. What ended their marriage wasn't a final fight, or even a long drift. It was a package delivered by FedEx. That's how Trevor Engelson learned that his marriage to Meghan was over. According to a close friend who witnessed the aftermath, Meghan didn't call, didn't write, didn't meet in person. She sent back her engagement and wedding rings through the mail, with no note, no explanation, no discussion. It was over like a transaction, the friend recalled. Trevor was devastated. He cried like a man who never saw it coming. The way Meghan exited that marriage is now being seen not just as cold, but as a preview of how she would later sever other personal ties. Her sudden cutoff from her father, Thomas Markle, her longtime best friend, Ninaki Pretty, and later the royal family itself, all seem to mirror the same pattern. Once someone no longer fits the next step in her journey, they are cut out, clean, fast, and with no looking back. Trevor reportedly tried to reach her, if only to talk, to understand. But she didn't respond. There was no closure, just silence. Insiders say he was stunned not just by the breakup, but by how swiftly she moved on, rebranded, and reshaped the story of her life without ever acknowledging what came before. Hollywood insiders at the time whispered about the split. Meghan never spoke of Trevor publicly again. On paper, it was a clean divorce, but behind the scenes, the suddenness of it left many in their shared circles confused. Why such a cold exit? Why no attempt to end things with dignity? Now, with Trevor breaking his silence, that divorce is being re-examined not as an isolated moment, but as the start of a pattern, one that extends all the way into Meghan's royal life. The clean cut, the controlled narrative, the erased past. One insider summed it up like this: if that's how she treated her first husband, it puts everything else in a different light. And for Harry, watching all of this unfold publicly, that light is only getting harsher. Meghan's pattern, using and moving on. What Trevor Engelson described isn't just one man's heartbreak. It appears to be part of a clear pattern, and others from Meghan's past are now speaking up, painting a strikingly similar picture. Former friends, colleagues, even distant relatives say the way Meghan leaves relationships, whether personal or professional, follows a distinct formula. Get close fast, mirror values, build trust. Then, once the purpose is fulfilled, disappear. No closure, no explanation, just silence. One of the most vocal sources is Ninaki Pretty, Meghan's childhood best friend. The two were inseparable for years. But after Meghan's rise in Hollywood, Pretty says she was cut off like I never existed. Her explanation? Meghan only keeps people around if they serve a purpose. She's very strategic about relationships, Pretty once said in a rare interview. She knows exactly what she wants. The same cold detachment was seen with Thomas Markle, Meghan's father. Once publicly close, he even walked her partway down the aisle during her first wedding. Their relationship collapsed, just as she was becoming a royal. No phone calls, no reconciliation, just a wall. Former colleagues from Suits have shared similar impressions. One crew member described her as warm on the surface, but always calculating. Others recall how she formed fast alliances with powerful producers and distanced herself from early supporters once bigger names entered the picture. All of this now feeds back into Trevor's story. His experience, being loved, then left without warning, no longer looks like an exception. It looks like the beginning of a pattern that only grew sharper with each new level of fame. A former assistant from Meghan's Toronto years offered perhaps the most concise summary. She collects people like chess pieces, and once a piece is no longer useful, it's off the board. The consistency of these stories is what makes them hard to dismiss. One ex, one friend, one father might be seen as coincidence, but across time zones and professions, the pattern keeps repeating. Charm, advancement, separation, over and over. And with Trevor's revelations now framing the public conversation, people are no longer just asking what happened. They're starting to ask, was Harry next? Hollywood knows more than it says. Long before she met Prince Harry, Meghan Markle was well known in certain Hollywood circles, not for her fame, but for her networking. And now, insiders from that world are quietly talking. Producers, agents, and former co-stars from Meghan's Suits era are reaching out to independent documentary teams and podcasters. The message is clear. They saw the ambition early, and they kept receipts. One producer who worked on early Suits episodes described her as polished, personable, and incredibly deliberate. According to him, she wasn't disruptive, but she made sure she was always in the room with the right people. She wasn't chasing fame blindly, he said. She was aiming for specific doors that could lead her up. A former assistant who worked on red carpet events remembers Meghan's precise awareness of who mattered and who didn't. She'd ask, who's going to be there? And if the right names weren't on the list, she'd politely back out. She didn't waste energy. More curiously, it's around this same period that Marcus Anderson and Soho House enter the picture. Anderson, a global membership executive, had deep connections in the elite social scenes of New York, London, and LA. He introduced Meghan to Prince Harry, yes. But now, some in the industry are asking, how long had he been positioning her for that moment? An agent who briefly represented Meghan during her rise claims that Anderson had been strategically inserting her into elite environments, including exclusive dinners, fashion parties, and yacht events where billionaires and royals mingled off the radar. She knew exactly how to carry herself, the agent explained. She didn't act starstruck. She acted like she belonged, even before she did. At the time, many saw Meghan as just another actress climbing the ranks. But now, with Trevor's story and mounting testimonies from Hollywood insiders, a new picture is forming. Meghan wasn't just hoping to land a breakout role. She was building a launch pad, one relationship at a time. And what's most telling, no one in that circle is defending her now. The silence from former colleagues is deafening. And those who are speaking are painting a version of Meghan that's less fairy tale, more screenplay, one written by someone who always knew how to find the spotlight and leave people behind. Why Trevor stayed silent. until now. The question everyone's asking, why now? Why did Trevor Engelson, after all these years, finally decide to speak? The answer lies in a mix of timing, frustration, and quiet vindication. When Meghan first married Harry, Trevor was under strict legal agreements. A reported NDA signed during their divorce, along with informal pressure from Meghan's team to stay classy and not speak to the media. For years, he kept quiet. Not a single interview, not a single quote. But according to his close friends, the silence came at a cost. He watched as Meghan rebranded herself as a victim, erased their shared history, and told a public story in which he simply didn't exist. It hurt, not because she left, but because she rewrote the ending. A friend recalls, "He always said he didn't want revenge. He just didn't want to be lied about." Now, with the public turning on Meghan and Harry's marriage under immense strain, Trevor saw an opening and a responsibility. Sources say he was approached by Netflix and other platforms multiple times. He refused most, but when a small independent team approached with an honest lens, no tabloid angle, no scripted drama, he agreed. Importantly, his legal team reportedly reviewed every word. The language used in the documentary avoids defamation while still telling the emotional truth. There are no wild accusations, just clear, human recollections of what it was like to love someone who seemed to have a very different plan. One insider described it as emotional evidence, not a hit piece. And that's why it's resonating. Because unlike royal gossip, Trevor's words are grounded in lived experience, and they match the pattern that others, from Ninaki Pretty to Thomas Markle, have already described. So why now? Because Trevor no longer feels alone, and because the version of Meghan the world embraced may not be the version he married. And now that he's spoken, the entire royal narrative is shifting again. The royal family's quiet validation. For years, the royal family has taken heavy criticism for their initial caution around Meghan Markle. Headlines branded them as cold, even prejudiced. But behind palace walls, something very different was unfolding. And now, with Trevor Engelson finally speaking, that quiet history is coming to light. Sources close to the palace say that senior royal advisors had already gathered detailed information about Meghan's first marriage long before the 2018 royal wedding. Prince Charles, at the time, reportedly ordered a full briefing on Meghan's background, including her relationship with Trevor. But much of the information was redacted or softened to avoid tension with Harry, who was already deeply in love. Prince William, however, wasn't convinced. One royal insider revealed that William directly asked, "Why doesn't anyone from her past speak well of her?" The concern wasn't about Meghan's profession or family. It was about the pattern of people left behind, all saying similar things. Princess Anne also reportedly raised private concerns, not about status or lineage, but about behavior. She allegedly advised caution, stating that fast climbers often leave damage in their wake. These early warnings were dismissed by Harry as unnecessary suspicion. At the time, he believed Meghan was simply misunderstood. But now, with Trevor's detailed recollections finally out in the open, those old conversations are being viewed in a different light. Inside the palace, there is reportedly a sense of quiet validation. Not triumph, not bitterness, just confirmation that the instincts they once whispered behind closed doors were not without cause. More critically, this shifts the public's understanding of the rift between Harry and his family. If the palace had legitimate, well-researched concerns about Meghan's past, then Harry's rejection of those warnings was based on incomplete truth, and that truth is only now coming into full view. For the royals, this isn't just about being proven right. It's about rebuilding trust with a prince who may finally be starting to question everything. Harry's response: cracks in the California castle. As the Trevor Engelson revelations make global headlines, all eyes have turned to Prince Harry, and what's unfolding behind the gates of their Montecito estate suggests that things are far from stable. Multiple insiders close to the Sussex inner circle describe Harry as withdrawn, agitated, and unusually private in recent weeks. Friends who used to speak with him regularly say calls are going unanswered, and public appearances are growing sparse. He has been spotted alone at events, a shift from their once unbreakable two-person PR front. The trigger, according to sources, wasn't just Trevor's interview, it was the way Trevor's story mirrors Harry's own experience. The calculated rise, the emotional coldness, the sudden shifts in loyalty. These are not just claims from a bitter ex. They are patterns Harry himself may now be seeing up close. Privately, it's said that Harry has begun asking new questions about how Meghan's first marriage ended. And the answers he's getting don't match the version he was told years ago. One source close to a former royal aide revealed that Harry had been told the divorce was mutual, respectful, and low drama. But now, seeing the FedEx ring story, the emotional betrayal, and the echoes of that behavior in their own relationship, the cracks are beginning to show. What's more, Trevor's emotional restraint, his refusal to attack Meghan, his calm delivery, has made the revelations more credible, not less. He comes across not as someone with an agenda, but as someone finally unburdening himself after a decade of silence. And Harry, now removed from the palace structure, may feel the weight of that truth more heavily than ever before. Those closest to the situation described the Montecito atmosphere as tense and fragile. Meghan is said to be in damage control mode, while Harry has reportedly grown quieter and more distant. There is no public rift yet, but those who know them say the silence between them is louder than any fight. Some believe this could be the tipping point, not just for the marriage, but for Harry's perception of the life he left the palace to build. Meghan's damage control: denials, threats, and silence. As Trevor Engelson's revelations gain traction across social media, independent documentaries, and insider reports, Meghan's legal and PR teams have reportedly gone into full crisis mode, and the strategy is both aggressive and uncertain. Behind the scenes, her lawyers are said to be exploring whether Trevor has violated any lingering NDAs or divorce agreements. However, those familiar with the situation say Trevor was extremely careful, vetting every detail with legal counsel and avoiding direct accusations. His tone was measured, his facts were sourced, and most importantly, his story matched what other insiders had already hinted for years. That makes it harder to discredit. Still, Meghan's camp is reportedly preparing a counter-narrative, potentially suggesting that Trevor is bitter, exploiting her fame, or distorting private events. The danger in that approach? It invites more evidence, and multiple journalists say that emails, messages, and receipts from Meghan's early days in Hollywood may already be in circulation among media investigators. Publicly, Meghan has remained silent, but insiders say her communications team is scrambling behind the scenes, attempting to manage press interest while considering legal threats against platforms that broadcast or distribute Trevor's interview. There's also concern about additional voices stepping forward. If Trevor's calm honesty inspires other people from Meghan's past to speak, the narrative could spiral further out of control. Already, anonymous sources from the Suits production set and old Toronto connections are reportedly contacting podcasters and writers, offering their perspectives. and not all of them are flattering. The challenge for Meghan now is one she hasn't faced before. A credible voice from her past who isn't afraid and who can't be dismissed easily. Trevor is not a Twitter troll. He's not a tabloid journalist. He's the man who knew her when no one else did, and who stayed silent for over a decade until now. In that silence, Meghan controlled the narrative. But now that silence is broken, and her team's usual tactics, denial, deflection, distraction, aren't working. The story has taken on a life of its own, and no amount of brand management can stop it. The question is no longer if this will impact her image. It's how far-reaching the fallout will be. The aftershock. Why this changes everything. What Trevor Engelson has revealed is not just a personal confession. It's a dramatic shift in how the world sees Meghan Markle. For years, she was positioned as a symbol of reinvention. Resilient, graceful, misunderstood. But now, that image is collapsing under the weight of first-hand truth, quiet, calm, and devastating. Trevor didn't rant. He didn't sensationalize. He simply told his truth, and it hit harder than any headline. He described a Meghan few ever saw, strategic in relationships, precise in exits, and singularly focused on advancement. For many, it reframes everything. The friends she left behind, the family she cut off, and the roles she stepped over. The impact goes far beyond tabloids. In Hollywood, producers are quietly distancing. Streaming giants like Netflix and Spotify are said to be reassessing long-term deals. Even the political path Meghan once seemed to flirt with is now uncertain. Most damaging of all? The story isn't coming from anonymous sources or critics. It's coming from the one man who knew her before the crown and who stayed silent the longest. Now that silence is broken, and the story will never be the same again. This isn't gossip. It's first-hand truth from the man who knew her before royalty. Trevor's voice has shattered the carefully crafted narrative, leaving Meghan's reputation exposed. The silence is over, and the consequences are just beginning. What happens next may redefine everything the world thought it knew about Meghan Markle.